These are the forests of Lunenburg County, part of the Acadian forest region that covers the Atlantic provinces. This forest, in addition to all the other global forests, affords a record of natural history and a place of discovery. Its profound stillness and serene peace becomes a setting for spiritual renewal. It provides shelter, food, and heat. It provides jobs and places for relaxation and recreation. Most importantly, it cleans the very air we breathe and the water we drink. In Lunenburg County and elsewhere throughout the world, we are just as dependent on the forest of today as were our ancestors. If there were no people, the forest might appear quiet and still. But it really is a living, breathing organism where the struggle for existence has continued day after day, night after night, since the beginning of time. The struggle is waged between competing species of trees, between predator and prey. Above and below the ground, the forest is in a constant state of change. But despite this seeming chaos, Lunenburg County forests continue to grow, to change. Today, much of that change is influenced by humans. It is almost impossible to find any forested land in the county that has not been affected by people. As the population of Lunenburg County grows, there is greater pressure on this valuable resource, and the forest is required to handle more activities and demands than ever before. New communities expand into forest areas. Cottage owners and developers, and even tourists, compete with our forests for space. And the demand for wood products continues to increase. Forests, however, develop in a predictable manner, and changes within the forest environment occur at differing rates. Some changes take many years. This tree, for example, was just a young sapling when the great-great-grandfather of this boy was born. But the forest is more than trees. It is the product of evolution. As the glaciers retreated about 10,000 years ago, the deepest and richest soils were deposited in a series of small, streamlined hills called drumlins or whalebacks. These key landscape features are quite common and add to the diversity within Lunenburg County. The soils of natural geological features and the climate play a major role in the types of trees and plants that will grow in our forests, and that influences which species of animals will make their home here. The forests of Lunenburg County consist of many types of trees. They fall into two groups. The deciduous trees, which lose their leaves each fall, are called hardwoods, and the conifers, or softwoods, which retain their needles for several years. One thing that all trees have in common is how the stem, branches, and roots grow. Each tree is basically divided into layers. The outer bark protects the tree from injury and acts as its skin. The inner bark carries food made in the leaves down through the branches, providing nutrients to the trunk and the roots. The cambium layer, where cell division occurs, enables the tree to grow bigger. The sapwood is like a bunch of little pipes. It carries the sap from the roots to the leaves for use in food production. The center of the tree is called the heartwood. Along with the roots, it supports the tree during the blizzards of winter and the strong winds of summer. At the very center of the tree is a small core of soft, sponge-like tissue called the pith. Because of the type of soil in Lunenburg County, softwood trees are the most common, including hemlock, spruce, and fir. Sunlight and moisture have a major influence on the many mixtures of tree and plant species that grow in our forests. In open areas, with lots of sun, different types of plants will grow than those found in areas heavily shaded by large trees. Mixtures of trees and plants will change as the forest develops.
That's a birch. It's not a white birch, that's a gray birch.
That's here that we see a lot of under our forest. Anybody know what type of fern that is? You know, one will have a system of 3 like that. All our other ferns tend to grow up in one single stalk.
In this county, ferns, asters, lily of the valley, and bunchberry are commonly found on sites with some shade. Plants that grow well under shade are called shade-tolerant. However, in areas where the sun is almost blocked out by the canopy above, thick carpets of various mosses form. If there is too much shade, the forest floor usually appears as layers of needles in various stages of decomposition, and very few green-colored plants are visible. Sometimes the forest changes quite radically. This forest used to be a mature stand of softwood trees, but a forest fire changed that in a matter of hours. Instead of the trees releasing nutrients into the soil slowly over a period of time through natural decay, the fire released them all at once. Plants that like full sun and mineral soil were the first to prosper. In turn, this provided ground cover and habitat for a variety of animals. Taking advantage of the sun, birches and aspens were the first trees to flourish. However, a few spruce and fir trees have also managed to spread throughout the site. Many generations of landowners will pass before this forest returns to the state it was in prior to the fire. But as the new forest develops, more and more trees that are shade-tolerant will emerge, grow, and develop. In some places in Lunenburg County, you can see old pasture land that once was forested is now supporting trees again. Most unused land is quickly reclaimed by species of trees and forest plants. Old boundary markers and fences soon become part of a new living forest, leaving few traces of the old pasture behind. Forests are always changing. Whether it's the passing of a single tree in an old-growth forest or the emergence of a new forest following a major disturbance like clear-cut harvesting or fire, the forest is in a constant state of change. When we are in the forest, it is sometimes difficult to imagine all the things that are happening around us. The forest is a series of overlapping communities with a complicated pattern where something is going on all the time. The canopy overhead provides shelter for birds and insects. It also shades the other plants and softens the effect of the falling rain. It provides shade for streams, helping to keep the water cool so that fish and insect life can survive. The leaves are like small engines, using energy from the sun and converting it to nourishment. In the process, they absorb carbon dioxide from the air and give off oxygen in return. All wood acts as a storehouse for the carbon which the tree removes from the atmosphere as it grows. Lichen, like old man's beard and other similar plant life, can be found in the canopy of the forest. Dead trees provide nesting places and a source of food for birds and some small animals. When a tree finally falls and decomposes, it provides nutrients for the growth of other young trees and plants. Both even-aged and mixed-age class forest have their own individual plant community, which in turn provides a variety of habitat for wildlife. Many mammals, such as foxes, raccoons, and deer, live and travel in the forest. Deer require the younger plants that occur following a harvest or fire, and in winter, they seek the protection of dense, mature softwood stands of spruce or fir. The fox hunts for mice and grubs. The other animals use the forest floor much like a highway, while microbes are munching up the fallen leaves, releasing nutrients into the soil. Beneath the surface, shrews and moles are busily tunneling in search of insects and worms. This aerates the soil so the roots can grow and expand.
The key in how a lot of our trees get their nutrients is not these big roots, the little roots. They have lots of those fibrous roots. It means it's getting lots of nutrients, and it's usually a pretty good tree.
The roots are absorbing water from beneath the surface and help to stabilize soil along slopes and the banks of streams. As life goes on in the forest, insects and diseases play an important role in the health of the trees and plants. Some insects are beneficial, like the pollinators and the soil improvers that aerate the soil and help release nutrients.
The pine standing like this is valuable when it's cut down and used for forest products. Unfortunately, it has a little critter we call a white pine weevil, which likes to feed on it.
Insects like the white pine weevil cause deformities, while others, like the spruce bark beetle, will attack the stem and eventually kill the tree. The forest never sleeps. It is in full production through the spring and summer, and while it might slow down during the autumn and winter, it never stops.
Look out for the worm, it might bite you.
Today, our forests are under increasing pressure as more and more human involvement is taking place. Sometimes the involvement seems minor. When these children leave, there will be little evidence of their visit. The forest will appear unchanged. But if this was to occur every day, the changes would soon be visible. Because all levels of human activity have an impact on it, this is a key factor in our forest future and its ability to sustain its growth. The forest has been a source of life, providing shelter and food since the time people first lived in this area. The number and size of the trees strongly influenced the pioneers that first put down roots in Lunenburg County. Tall, straight pines were harvested for the masts of sailing ships that supplied the coastal communities and sailed around the world. These forests supplied the mills with raw material to build boats, houses, and stores. Local craftsmen made oars, paddles, barrels, shingles, and railroad ties. A thriving export trade saw many of the products shipped to other countries. Since there were many trees readily accessible, little thought was paid to the long-term impact on the forest. Tracts of land were cut, and when access became more difficult, the companies built railroads or used the rivers in order to get the trees to the mill. This activity played a role in creating the diversity we now have. we have learned that it is important to make use of appropriate environmentally and conservationally sound practices, or our forests won't be able to keep up with the demand. Most buildings require a source of lumber. If we removed all the wooden material from this house, there would be very little left. There would be no roof rafters, no framed walls, no floors, no porch, no steps. Just a concrete foundation with a lot of roofing shingles, plaster, and copper pipes in the basement. Wood has such an important role in our everyday life that sometimes we forget that the forest is not an unending supply. It has its limits. In the past, harvesting focused mainly on the removal of trees. But now that demands for forest resources are more than just timber, and the size of the forest is not getting any larger, other methods are beginning to be implemented. There are several different ways to harvest this resource, and the choice will vary depending on the types of trees, their ages, the soil on which they live, and the goals of the landowner. Within Lunenburg County, the chainsaw is still the tool of choice on smaller woodlots, while large-scale operations might use mechanical harvesters. The forest will regrow after a harvest, as it will regrow following other disturbances such as fire or insect infestation, but not necessarily in the same fashion. Some tracts will come back as forest cover, while others will support shrubs and small plants before tree species begin to grow. Because it removes all or part of the existing cover, some harvesting operations create a dramatic change in the forest. Although the degree of change will differ between forested areas, wildlife habitat, plant growth, surface water movement, most parts of the forest environment will be transformed. Today, our modern mills operate efficiently. After the trees have been cut into various sizes of lumber, the bark slabs are sold as firewood, and even the sawdust becomes bedding for farm animals. Many communities depend upon the forest for local employment. It goes far beyond those businesses that produce the raw materials to be converted to finished products. It also affects all the support industries. The forest is equally important to those who use it for recreation, fishing, hunting, and guiding. The forests of Lunenburg County are very important for the jobs they provide. Without wise use, hundreds of people would be affected. The forests of Lunenburg County, like forests around the world, are many things to many people. They provide the raw material for building and manufacturing, and in so doing, they provide employment for people in many different fields. At the same time, the forest can be a calm and spiritual place, a natural alternative to the noise and pollution of the city. It purifies the water we drink. It is the source of the air we breathe, and the ozone layer that shields our Earth. One natural living system which sustains, rebuilds, revitalizes. These forests have always supported the people of Lunenburg County, and if we continue to practice good stewardship, they will continue to grow and prosper long after we have left. Learn about them, care about them, Enjoy them. In Lunenburg County, the history of our forest is part and parcel of our traditions and our culture. We are proud to be the forest capital of Canada in 1996.
So, it's easy. I don't know what flower that is. That's a speckled alder. That's red oak. That's reindeer moss. And I haven't got those other flowers. Oh, and that's tamarack. I got three. That's tamarack. Staghorn sumac. And then underneath is speckled alder, and you got a red oak. That's the only soft tamarack on the tamarack. I had two of those.
Looks like fungus or something growing on.
This one right here.
My rock.
I got a slug on my finger.